This is gnarly.
This definitely works. I'm gonna see if I can put this maybe down here so you can see what's happening a little bit easier. And here we are for a Thursday morning of Dualistic Unity Raw, a very different Dualistic Unity Raw than we have done up until now, because normally we record these from our individual locations and then we get together at retreats and we record episodes there. In this case, we are not actually at a retreat and we are hanging out in person. That's right. Andrew is here at my home. We are going to be recording this episode right fucking here in my office. As you can tell, if you are watching the video version, we have rigged up the corner of my office so that way we can just shoot the breeze. I've got the dress that I wore for my dress video behind me. At some point, we might be using that to raise some money. So definitely keep that in mind. If that dress interests you, even just as a keepsake, it could be yours. It could be yours. I can't even continue that with a straight face. I'm going to pass it over to Andrew.
We're going to have to do a little, try it on and wander it around. This thing's going for selling for $100. $100. Any takers? We'll see, but why not, man? You know, it's like we've talked about a lot of different things on here. Why not get into some, fun stuff, kind of fuck around and see what's good? Because we'll be able to, we'll have some props. We'll have some, anyone on TikTok. We're on Twitch right now, as you can see on my sign. But start getting some props, start doing some of the skits, wandering around town, get some of that going. Get Eon, shout out Eon Lightfoot for get writing us some scripts. But I'm excited, dude. I'm here in Nanaimo, here to for the week right now and checking out some apartments. And it's a dope town. I'm very much at a point in my life, I think, where I was ready, to find something that's a little closer to just life, reality. It's like prioritizing where I'm at instead of where I'm going. It's like, slower pace resonates a lot more now. But,
it's going to be entertaining.
As you change, your environment changes. And so here I am. I'm excited.
Well, this is going to be fun because, as you can tell, listener, there's immediately a different tone now because I'm not muted in any way whatsoever. And as I'm coughing off to the side, realizing, shit, I can't mute without shutting Andrew up. This is going to be a fun thing, an exercise in me shutting my cornhole. That said, somebody asked here, is Oren coming back to the show? Oren is coming back to the show. Oren's on the show every Wednesday at noon Eastern time. He's got the High and Empowered broadcast, which is also a podcast after the fact. You can find that on Spotify and any podcast platform. Check it out. Check it out. High and Empowered. He'll be back next Wednesday at noon. He's got another fucking stunning guest, so that's going to be amazing. And then, of course, Oren also pops onto the podcast here on Dualistic Unity from time to time. We're going to have him back on just to touch base about his podcasting journey, because I know that's something that's been really new for Oren, is the fact that this is weird. Like, I can actually look at you while I'm talking. It's just fucking bizarre. The whole podcasting thing is new to Oren. Like, this is not something that he's typically done in the past. Like, he's a salesman, he's good with people, but this has been a new journey for him. And so I want to get him back on the show so we can talk about like how he's been settling into that, because he just had his first cannabis related guest this Wednesday, and it was a dope conversation. He's got another one next Wednesday. Like, he's really finding his stride. And anybody who hasn't checked out High and Empowered, do check out High and Empowered, because it's a great conversation. Oren's fucking amazing. I'm just stoked to see how he's settling in, because as you and I both know, in the podcast world especially, it really comes down to how much you're judging yourself and how hard you're making it on yourself, as opposed to just showing up and just fucking doing it. Like, even right now, like, this is awkward compared to what we normally do, because we're not used to actually having this conversation, right? Like, I'm normally staring at the screen, right? Mostly at myself. Not gonna lie. Right? So you could sit there and go, fuck, what do we do? Is this coming across okay? Right? But why? It doesn't change the fact that we're still recording, that we're still going through it, that it's still us doing it. right? And so now Oren's going through that, and it's changing him. He's really changed his dialogue. He's changed a lot of his perspectives, things that were useful in the sales world that just aren't useful to him as a person.
Mhm.
You know, like the dropping of positivity, the embracing of empowerment. All that shit's amazing. So I'm stoked to have him back on the show. So yeah, to answer your question, Oren is definitely coming back. He's part of the Dualistic Unity family.
Oh yeah, he'll absolutely be back. And yeah, there's definitely a difference being in person. And like straight up for me, like that's been something that was almost, I think, with social media, a way for me to kind of like not have that like in-person connection. And it's crazy because I was like, I'll be quick to look back on things and kind of judge myself about stuff, you know, but it's not necessary again, because it's like, this is a new situation. This is a different situation. Like you can still just show up. You don't have to have expectations of yourself, and you don't have to take yourself seriously. But if you do all those things, then it's like, those are all things that are in the way of just expression, just expressing yourself. And so this is kind of cool doing this now, because it is so different to be
This is weird
in person.
for sure.
Like, but
I'm not gonna lie,
you can feel the learning happening.
I'm feeling a little out of place and elevated in my gaming chair. So you continue talking to them.
All right.
Hello everyone. I'm gonna grab a chair that's more equal.
All right. I wanted to see the chat here, but yeah, no, this is fun. But with the with the social media stuff, straight up, like that's something that's been hitting me more and more, is how much it almost like felt like it regressed my in person, like ability to interact. Oh, there we go. Now we're on even playing.
Exactly.
You know,
and it doesn't
just,
squeak every time I move.
Yeah. And it's like, because in person there's less control. Like social media, on a video in front of your computer, there's more of a sense of control. You know, I used to clip up my videos a lot, and even just going from that to just like talking through a minute or two of a video was a difference, was a shift. Like I would talk in like little spurts and just clip them together. And I didn't even realize how much there was, like, it was both changing, like I was changing the entire time, but at the same time, like uncovering so much too without realizing like what was going on. And so I'll look back and be like, oh, I regressed, but really it was just shifts the whole time. And it's like things were being learned as maybe there was less of the person to person fucking even interactions, man. It's been fuck. Yeah. It's gnarly how like the technology can almost get in the way, you know?
That's another way to control.
Crutch.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because you can cherry pick. You're like, you know, I like how I said it there. I don't like how I said it there.
Yeah.
You know, and this is why, like on my TikToks, I don't clip them. You ever notice like they're always just one solid recording? And it's just because if it's going to come out, it's going to come out. I'm just going to let it come out. And sometimes I'll take like 2 or 3 runs at it, right? Because my brain hasn't figured out how to move my lips in the way that it intends to.
Yeah.
But aside from that, after it's recorded, I'm just like, whatever the inflection is in there, at least it's authentic.
Yeah.
Right. Like as I'm going through this, if you hear me suddenly, you know, it's like, that's authentic.
Yeah.
That's what I was feeling right there. I didn't clip that shit out because I thought you might judge it, because I didn't clip it out because the only person judging it is me. Right. So fuck that noise. And yeah, it does. It changes things. But then again, it also makes it easier in social interactions, right? Like you were saying, like all of a sudden you go into a conversation, you're not going through your head going, what's the right way to say this? You know, what's the way that's going to get me the most beneficial response from them? You're just like, here's my response. Yeah. And there it is. You know, I love that shit. This is cool. I like the fact that we can actually have a talk and people can hear each of us going, yeah, right, or no, or just giggling for weird fucking reasons. That'll happen more often, everyone. Hey, we got a bunch of people in here. I just want to say, hey, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here in the comment section. Amazing to see you two recording in person. It is definitely an experience. Hello.
Amanda, great to see you. Yeah, because it's like a letting go. It's like another variation of letting go. And I didn't even realize, because like so much of my deeper stuff is just like conversationally, like just basic interactivity, and like my lack of experience with that. And so I've been more recently just like just cashiers at grocery stores, just anything, any opportunity. Because part of me is like, if I start talking a lot, I'll start thinking like, oh, am I talking too much? Because there's plenty of situations with, people that maybe I've known for longer, I'm a little more comfortable with, that I'll talk a lot, but it's just that degree of comfort. It's not like it's not there. Like, it's not like the words aren't there. It's just where my comfort zone is like super fucking small. And so as that expands, it's like the words are going to be there as it happens, as you jump into new things, but you can't know how you're going to be after jumping in
or how they're going to be.
Or
right? Like that's the thing. Like we keep going into it going, I'm just going to jump in, and in jumping in, they're going to enjoy themselves more. It's like, that's not what you mean by jumping in. You're not jumping in for them. You're jumping in for you. They still have the right to not jump in. Right. And that's sometimes what happens, is that you're like, fine, I'm going to jump in and be myself. Ooh, that was quite the response. And then you're like, maybe I did something wrong. It's like, why? Because they didn't respond in the favorable way that you thought you wanted. Give them the right to respond as themselves. Give them that space. Don't have that expectation. That doesn't take away necessarily the benefit of jumping in for you or them. It's just not going the way that you think it should. And that's part of the problem. Like, who says it's supposed to go that way? Who says you being yourself, upsetting somebody who isn't being themselves, isn't the best and most positive thing for both of you? Because now that person has a chance to see a part of themselves that they weren't looking at, and you have a chance to look at an old part of yourself that you're moving beyond. There's benefit there.
Yeah, absolutely. And like just being able to see that and have that opportunity, like give people the opportunity. Because if people even just judging and then recognizing how judgmental they were, or if someone's being themselves, like people have the opportunity to take that in themselves and be like, oh, all right, they're being themselves. I can be a little more myself. They're not taking themselves that seriously. I don't have to take myself that seriously. But then it's either that, or it's like, oh, what a weirdo. What a strange thing to do. And it's like one or the other, but you're at least giving someone an opportunity. Because if they do respond like that, then it's like, yeah, but why do you think that's weird? Why do you think that's strange? Why? Just because it's different, just because it's something that they would judge themselves for.
Yeah. Well, and that's a nice thing, right? Like, how often, because again, like if I'm judging myself, then I'm looking at everybody else's potential judgments, right? I'm going, oh, you're all judging me. But that's all for me not wanting to be myself. So as I start to be myself, I start to let go of my own judgments, which means I'm starting to assume that people are judging me less, right? Because I'm not so focused on it. Well, if people aren't judging me as much, then I have less reason to be reactive and defensive, which means that now everybody around me isn't getting the same push and pull, because I'm not reacting to a fictional threat that's not there. And so it's not like I'm saying you can be yourself, but I'm not giving them anything to defend from. I'm not trying to manipulate. I'm not trying to satisfy anything. And so there's just space that results from that. And suddenly they're like, I can be a bit more myself, just by virtue of not being pushed and pulled by this person who's with me.
Yeah.
Now, isn't that funny? Like, that's all it is. We're so used to going into a situation expecting that person to use us in an egotistical way, expecting that person to manipulate us in a way that they need, because we do it. So we go into a situation almost on guard, ready for anything. Here we go. And instead, it's just go into the situation, right? Just go into the situation. And then all of a sudden, everybody's just spending time together instead of trying to get to some fictitious endpoint that we're all hurrying through this moment to get to and nobody's enjoying.
It's like everyone climbing the ladders at once, like, arms around each other, going in a direction, and like, talking about it, interacting, pondering about it as they're going, like what's going to get us there quicker, and strategizing and all this stuff. And it's like, or we don't have to go in any specific direction. We're not getting anywhere. And then when you stop that running, it's like you're there and there isn't necessarily any reason to do or to say anything. Like, it really has felt a lot more recently like as I'm not doing the things that I've always done to make myself feel better, it's like I'm left more with myself. And then just like hanging out with you, like you leave that space where it's like there's the opportunity if you're willing. But it's like you got to be willing, because there's always been for me so much concern of like, am I going to be judged for doing this? And like so much deep down, it's fascinating that I was able to convince myself that I, didn't go, oh, I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks of me. And it was all under there.
For sure.
But I would, because it's like I would do things that weren't, it was just, I would avoid certain things and just do specific things that were getting me somewhere. So I didn't realize how much there was still the concern, because it was rigidity is what I traded. So as I've relaxed more, it's like, oh, all that has been there the whole time.
For sure. Well, that's it. That's a tunnel vision thing. That's why we have that trajectory, right? Because as long as we're going somewhere, that's where we're looking, right? But as soon as we relax, we have sensitivity to where we are. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So often, all of a sudden, this is when we slow down. All of the stuff that we have been trying not to think about, all the stuff that we went to the store, got our task list done, and we, went to the gym and fucking burned that shit off before it really settled in. All that stuff just comes back in. And we're like, fuck, I got to find something to do. I gotta do something. I'm going to go out to the bar. I'm going to call my friend. I'm going to, and it's
run
just
a marathon.
Well, that's the whole point, because the alternative is I'm just left with my life. And that means just left with the things that I've invested in as worthy of my attention. And we don't recognize how much we've invested in over time, how many superficial and ultimately pointless thoughts that we've invested in as something that gave us value or gave us certainty or had some purpose or point. Like, these are all things that we've invested in, and then all of a sudden we're left with that, and the fallout of that. Like, if you're super invested in, for example, how you appear to others. Like, if you are really looking for validation, and then you end up by yourself at the end of the day, you start going through all the thoughts of every conversation you've had that day. You start going through all the thoughts of every conversation you might have tomorrow, right? You start going through all those thoughts. Well, why is that? Well, because you've invested in that as a means of control. You've invested in the idea of other people's perception of you. And so all of your thoughts are echoing that. They're all echoing the fallout that could happen if you didn't have control of this one thing that you've invested in as being so important. And so if you were to let go of your investment in that, all of those thoughts just dissipate. But we want to get rid of the thoughts. We're like, oh, I don't like these thoughts. They're intrusive. It's like, they're not intrusive. They're a part of what you're invested in.
Yeah.
You just don't like that they're connected. And so you would rather look at them as being unwanted rather than a choice that you're actively making day to fucking day.
Damn, it's like they're indicators about showing you, what's there, what you still got, that you're still focused on, that you're still concerned about or trying to maintain. And that's all it is. Because if it's about, say, like looks, for example, and someone like judges you one way or the other, or you feel good because of it, and then you feel, if someone doesn't like you, and then you feel bad because of it, but it's all because you gave it credence.
Correct.
It came from me. Like, that was the only, like, if it's not coming from me, then there isn't the sway outside of that. And that goes for everything, like, oh my God, because that goes for everything that I do. Because again, like, just, I've said it plenty of times, but with speaking, like, that's always been my deepest insecurity, was like expressing myself verbally. And because, like, there was plenty of things that people are afraid of that I haven't been afraid of.
Exactly.
And is worried about.
Because it doesn't prove anything about you, not to the same investment, right? Whereas to you, not being able to speak clearly means something about you. And so there's all kinds of fear that goes with it. Whereas if it didn't mean anything about you, which is what the podcast has been just showing up every day. It's like, okay, I got to talk. Well, after enough times, you're just like, I'm just going to talk.
Yeah.
It's like making 1,000 bowls, right? Like, at first you're just like, am I doing it right? And then you're just like, just keep doing it. And after a while, you're just like, I'm just going to keep doing it. There's no point in taking this 534th bowl too seriously, right? And that's kind of the thing, is you stop thinking about it. And so all of a sudden that insecurity is not there. to the same degree, it gets easier and easier to jump in. But that doesn't mean the insecurity isn't optional, which is why you might do fine on the podcast. You might do fine talking to like people that you don't have still those underlying vested interests in, but all of a sudden a pretty girl comes over, right? And that immediate, like, am I saying the right thing? Am I coming across? All of a sudden, all of that shit comes back up, right? Well, I thought I let all that go. It's like, well, you did in certain situations. You know, this one just happens to intersect with another previous investment. And so now you get to deal with the two combined, right? Like, that's the whole point. And that's why life is so important to just jump in and do things, because it's an opportunity for you to feel out where you're invested. You know, we forget that. There was somebody on TikTok the other day, and it was this idea of like, you know, if your beliefs aren't working out for you, it's not the belief doesn't work. You just got to try other beliefs. You got to experiment. You got to, you know, look for the ideal end results. And it's like, you know, because you're feeling frustrated and you're feeling, you know, really low. And it's like, yeah, tie those together. Tie those together. If you keep doing this thing and it ends up in the same place, there's a good chance it's going to keep doing that. And it's just this idea like, oh, you just got to try and get to where you want. That's how you're going to be happy. And the person saying it isn't happy. Yeah. Right? Because they keep assuming happy is this constant state. Happy is this place to get. You know, I'll tell you right now, I am happy as a clam going through the fucking deepest of my insecurities. Like, I go through shit all the time. Like, you know, I just had a 2-decade relationship end. And so at the end of that, you're going, oh, wow, you know, there's a lot of stuff in there. I dealt with a lot of stuff in this relationship. I'm dealing with a lot of stuff now. I'm back on my own. There's all these implications, all of these assumptions, all of these things that I habitually have told myself in the past, all of those stuff. I am happy as a clam going through that stuff. I love it. It's like a good book. It really is. Like, my consciousness, my awareness, my existence is like the most thorough read I've ever had in my life. It's the most intricate story, movie, play. Like, it's just insanely complex and nuanced and fulfilling. And if you can just get into it, like when all of a sudden you're feeling insecure, just go, oh shit, here comes the climax of the fucking chapter. Yeah. Because that's what's happening. You know, it's a very mini point in the story where you are coming through another fucking underworld. That's exciting. It doesn't have to feel exciting as you're going through it. That's why it's exciting later. You know, but we forget that. We want to pin it down to how am I feeling right now? It's like, but how are you feeling now is going to lead to how you feel later. Stop making assumptions about the later. Just keep going.
Oh man, fuck, dude. Well said. Thinking of that, like, because then it's like you're writing it as you go. You know, it's not, there isn't this idea of like, oh, this means that in the next chapter it's going to be this. Or because for me, it was always, I wasn't even aware of what was being written in the moment, because it was always, well, I'm just going to do this to get to this point that I've chosen in the next chapter, whatever the next chapter is going to be. And it was never this, but if it's this, then it's like, you see, like, you know, right now I'm moving, a lot of changes, shifts, a lot of things going on. And it's like a new chapter. And it's, you know, I'm in the first paragraph and I'm like, you know, going through ups and downs and wondering just like, you know, because I'll get, you know, waves of things go through. Like, what am I, like, am I doing this right now? Like, what's going on? Like, I feel, because I do feel more isolated from everything that I've known. You know, it's like I'm on the other side. I never even thought of living on the West Coast, you know, but it's like right now in my life, it makes sense. And it's an opportunity for me to see what I'm made of, you know, even like jumping into like even just doing an in-person podcast conversation like this. Like, I can see how this is gonna, again, not help me, because it's not, I'm not improving anything, but it's just getting those reps, just doing it. And you see, like, the more situations that you're in that are at first uncomfortable, you know, as you're writing it, it's like there are a lot of discomforts at first, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, of course, anytime anyone's done anything, it's like, you know, you learn to play an instrument. You're not fucking, you know, Beethoven the first time you play the piano.
Beethoven wasn't Beethoven the first time you played the piano.
Even not even close.
Right.
Oh, but we can be so quick. I can be so quick to just like judge like that, like that, especially when I don't, when it's like grasping for you know, oh, there's nothing to say, there's nothing to say, there's nothing to say. And I'll just like, that'll just go through and it'll just reinforce this idea that like there's nothing there. There's nothing there to express. And unless I give myself a direction or a topic, or just let the other person like choose something, but I never judge them for bringing something up, you know? It's like I feel like I don't even have that many reps doing that. But then it's like, I'm like the present, you know?
Well, this is it. Like the older I get, the more I start to realize just how much is actually in there that I was just speeding along too much to really see. You know, I kept looking for it, not realizing the frantic nature of my search was blinding me to what was obvious. You know, it's like, what am I capable of? It's like, you're doing it. just slow down and enjoy it. Yeah, but it's just, we're always trying to look for that sense of what's possible, and we just don't know. I mean, this is why I don't know what my story is going to be, and I've stopped thinking that I could tell myself what the best story to be is. Like, I just don't think I have that ability to know that many complicated details, and so I just got out of the way. But if you think about it, any story you've ever read that got your attention, any book, any movie, any play that's ever gotten your attention, started with hardship. Like, it never ever started with, and the character was good at everything and got along with everyone and everything went perfectly, the end. That would be the most boring piece of shit book. Like, you'd just be like, wow, I'm not going to get this fucking time back. And nothing happened. I learned nothing. This guy's got everything going for him. You know, like, that's the point. So when you look at your own life, why would you want that for yourself? Right? Why would you want that for yourself, let alone everybody you're going to interact with? You might as well just dress up as a piece of cardboard. You know, like, you're going to give that, like, people that much to work with. So looking at it, you're like, fuck, I'm so glad that I went through abuse. You know, I'm so glad I've been homeless. I'm so glad that, you know, I've you know, been hurt, that I've been in a state of mind where I hurt others. You know, because as much as I look at that and I can judge myself for it, the fact is that I learned a lot from it. You know, and it changes how I interact with everyone. You know, the fact that I have, again, through the perception that I needed to survive, just not accounted for other people's feelings in the past. Like, that there are just things that I've done that I look back and I'm like, oh, if I had just paid a bit more attention, you know, if I had just, you know, taken that time to think about it and not operate out of need, that would have totally gone differently. Well, all those moments I can't change. But now when I see somebody going through that, my interaction with them is, yeah, you know, I get that, you know, slow down. You know, I'm able to see people as they're going through it, and I can see myself getting lost in something and how I react to them changes. You know, when they're arguing a point with me, like, you know, you need to understand what I'm telling you. I got to save you. You know, like, there's a part of me that's like, you know, I get it.
Yeah.
I really get that. And had I not wasted, quote unquote, that time, I wouldn't get that. So it's definitely not a waste. You know, we just don't understand how all the pieces of the story fit together when we're so busy trying to, like, go, but that's not the story I want. Yeah. It's not the story I want. I want chapter 4 to go like this, and chapter 4 doesn't go that way. And we're so lost in our opinion of it, we don't get anything out of it or the characters.
Exactly. Because then what is it like, if you have that control and you're able to manipulate just all of the chapters into what you want it to be, then there's no variation in that.
Boring.
Yeah, there's no excitement in that. It's like the ups and the downs inform each other. You know, the joy and the suffering informs each other. And so, yeah, when it's like starting out in comfort and just like doing it to yourself, man, like just becoming so hesitant about everything, you know, and so quick to judge yourself because there's a focus on yourself. That's what reinforces it. And it's like everything you do, like there's been so many things throughout my life that it seems like it's just been, I'm priority. Like, I'm priority number one. And so of course there's going to be the back and forth mentally.
Crazy. Like,
they inform each other. Obvious. It seems so obvious.
When
but
you're not doing it.
Yeah. It's like, no shit. And then it's like, it just kind of boxes you in to a prison of your own making that's become very, very small. Because it's like, those are the things that take up the space mentally. Like they take over even just the ability to experience where you're at.
Yeah.
And actually be involved in paying attention and taking things in. Because in spots where I am more relaxed and I'm paying attention, like there's so much there, so many things to bounce to. Like there's been some episodes recently we've done where it's like there was every time it was, I was my turn to talk. It's like there was a bunch of stuff there, and I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
But there's other times where it's like it doesn't feel like that at all.
Yeah. It's crazy. But again, it's self-faith.
Yeah.
Right. So much of it, because again, there's two experiences happening, right? Like there's me here, and then there's my opinions of me here. Right. But my opinions of me here are also cumulative. Like I've been building them for a lifetime. Right. But the two things can happen at the same time without being the same thing. Like I can be in my life and have my opinions and perceptions of my life without them being the same thing. And to be able to operate in my life and recognize that is what stops me from reacting to them so quickly. Right? Like being here on the podcast, for example. I can be here on the podcast and have thoughts that I don't know what to talk about. Like I can do the two things at the same time, be talking and feel like I have nothing to talk about. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Right? That's the point, is that just because the thought is there doesn't mean it's the truth. It can be there. I don't need to eradicate it in order to contradict it. Yeah. Right? I don't need to get rid of the thought that I can't do it in order to do it. I can do it while still thinking I can't do it. In fact, that's kind of what I've been doing the whole time. Isn't that funny? But we get so caught up in the thought, like, no, it really means it's the truth. It really means it's the truth, as I contradict it. like every step of the way.
Yeah.
How many things have we said I can't do and then done? How many things in our life have we thought to ourselves, that's too much for me, and then did it anyway? But we never take that in because we have this investment in thought, in control. That's really all it is. And as long as we're invested in thought and control, we can contradict it all day long and never once notice. Never once notice that we've contradicted it because we don't want to notice. We don't want to undermine our belief in thought and control. So we actually create our own cognitive dissonance. We're like, no, sure, these thoughts have failed to fucking yield anything every other time before, but it'll work now. And it's just like, why are you believing that? It's because the alternative is uncomfortable. It's like, although I've been wrong every other fucking time, I don't want to let go of the belief. This is what I was saying in Discover Transcendence about compulsive gambling. I keep losing, but I'm going to double down again. I keep losing, but I'm going to double down again. Why? Because I truly believe that at some point, I'm going to win back my losses. If I just keep doing the same thing. Tell me that doesn't sound fucking familiar. Like, this is what we do in everything. It's like that whole point about belief. It's like, if belief hasn't been working for you up until now, just believe more. Just believe more. You're like, holy hell. Or that lady the other day who was saying, like, if you're feeling frustrated and down because you're not getting what you want, it's because you're not allowing yourself to want it enough. I'm like, holy shit. Like, why not just give people a shovel and hit them over the head? Like, it's just brutal. But that's the point, is the alternative is I don't have control and I have to settle for this. And that's what it feels like at first. You're like, ugh. Fine, I'll just deal with life. And then it starts to open up. Because all of your assumptions about your life are all in the... So when you start getting out of that, you start going, oh, this isn't what I thought at all. Well, no shit. Absolutely. Reality is not what you were thinking. Correct. Welcome to it. And that's where it opens up. But you can't express that to people enough. Like, you try and they turn it into a concept like enlightenment or connecting with God, instead of just be here, be yourself.
Yeah. And it's like that influence that you start to realize that you have. Because if you're thinking about what it's going to feel like or what it's going to be like to be, in reality, just be paying attention, like, of course it's never going to be that. Of course it's never going to be what you're thinking about, but you got to jump in to find out. You know, it's like walking around the pool wondering what it's going to feel like, and then, you know, dipping your toe in, being like, oh, it's cold, but you get used to it as you jump in, and then you learn how to handle it and deal with it and like managing it, and then it becomes fun, another thing to do. You know, and there's lots to do in the pool, and there's games to play, and there's all this.
But nobody's in the pool.
Stuff.
Everybody's gathered around the side, dipping their toe in, going, I did it. Right? And that's it. That's what they're doing. Like, look at me, I'm touching the present.
Yeah.
I'm touching the present.
Oh my
God. And you're like, so this is what we do? We just sit around the pool? It's a nice pool.
Yeah.
You know, and people have got like incense and flowers around the pool. You know, they got that whole thing. Walk up to the pool. Look at it. Form a religion. You're like, just jump in the fucking pool. Like, can we go swimming now? No, it's holy. It's a holy pool. You're like, it's right there. You know, like,
just hop in. Just hop in. There's not a wall around it. You don't have to do something in order to jump in. You know, it's not like you have to learn all these lessons and take all, like, you know, that's spirituality is on the edge of the pool, and it's like, you know, selling tickets.
Can't jump in yet. You got to learn our path first.
Yeah, got to become a master. You know, got to become, and then it's like this conceptual idea. Oh, got to become my higher self.
Yep.
Got to become my highest self before I can jump in the pool. It's like jumping in the pool is getting used to it. Like, you can't get used to it until you jump in the pool.
This is why Krishnamurti used to always be like, because people would ask him, like, okay, so what you're saying is, once I'm enlightened, life's like this, and he'd be like, what? Hold up, get there.
Yeah.
Before you start speculating about what it's like once you're there, fucking get there. Because anything you're speculating is coming from the world of thought. So it's not it. Anything you're projecting into the world of enlightenment is coming from your world of insecurity. It is not it. It just can't be. And we just want to know, what is it like once I'm at peace? And that's the root of our suffering, is that we actually keep that peace at bay, trying to get to it, convincing ourselves we can't have it because it's not the concept of peace that we have in our head. The concept of peace we have in our head is very much the equivalent of just sitting down and doing nothing forever. You know, and yet peace is nothing like that. You know, I'm very peaceful doing the dishes. I'm peaceful paying my bills. I'm peaceful dealing with people who argue with me. Like, I'm okay with all of that stuff. It's not like I don't feel the emotional spectrum, but I'm not judging myself for it. That's pretty fucking peaceful.
Yeah.
You know, as a whole. But again, it's not the idea of peace at all. But it is the reality of peace, where you're no longer imprisoned by conflict. Where all of a sudden conflict no longer takes away from your peace. That is peace. We are down to our last 5 minutes.
All right.
Holy fuck, did that go fast. This has, yes, we are together. Somebody says, love the t-shirt. We've had some great comments. Thank you, everyone, so far for joining us. We got about 5 minutes left. If you are enjoying this conversation, I cannot recommend enough that you join us in California in 3 weeks, April 11th to April 15th. What's nice is that I've got fucking props now, so I can go over here and actually say right there, April 11th till April 15th. That's a Thursday to a Monday. We are going to be hanging out at Big Bear Lake in this dope ass location. It's got a pool table. We're going to be taking nature walks. There's a lake right there beside us, so we're likely going to go swimming because you can swim in Big Bear. I was looking that up.
All right.
There's going to be cannabis and other things. If you have any questions about the event, feel free to let us know. Definitely ask. You can contact us on Discord or on Patreon or social media. These events are so much fun because they really are an opportunity to do exactly what we're talking about here. You show up, you watch all your shit pop up, you don't give it energy, and then you look at the person next to you and they kind of giggle and go, that was weird, you know, just because they're going through the same shit. I love that shit. I love the fact that at the retreats, everybody's just being themselves, watching that shit pop up, and then being amazed when the person next to them is going, I got a lot of shit popping up. And you're like, you do? And it's because it's something that we're all going through together. But how often do we talk about it? How often do we really just get down to brass tacks with the people around us and talk about existence, the experience of existing? Not existing as a human or existing as a Republican or existing as a Christian, but existing, the actual just fucking cornerstone of what it is to be. We don't have that conversation. And when we do, we find that we are obviously all in it together.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, it's not that common at all. People like even when it's right in your face, like, oh, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of tension, rigidity, pushback, judgment, blah blah blah. But it's not like it's all the reasons, it's all the things that are being expressed from that state instead of talking about, but what about the state? What about where that's coming from and why? And so, yeah, it's exciting to have a spot where it can be recognized and then talked about, and because as soon as it's like, oh, it's not hidden anymore, there isn't so much concern or fear about it,
But it's not as important. See, that's why the whole esoterica thing is so fucking like addictive. Like, we really like this idea of hidden knowledge. We love this idea of fucking secrets of the universe. Fuck, man, it's such a thing. This is why you see people out there who would otherwise be very common sense, interesting, authentic individuals just getting a wash of all this fucking yoga shit, trying to like memorize concepts from long forgotten fucking paths. And it's why it's because it sounds so good, like we're 3 steps from wearing robes and carrying incense ourselves, and there's this feeling that goes with it, like I'm doing something special, I'm doing something holy, I'm doing something that is sacred. And all of those concepts take you away from it. This is why, again, I love the quote. The stench of my armpits is holier than any church. I fucking love that quote because it grounds you. It grounds you in really what this is about. Reality itself is the divine experience. Reality itself. And yet we're trying to make it into this thing up on a pedestal. We're trying to give it, all this adornment. We're trying to make it shiny. And reality in itself isn't that simplistic. It's the whole spectrum, from shit to flowers. Reality is the whole spectrum. And we just want to cherry pick it instead of recognizing how much it all works together. It's the same thing with all of our suffering. We don't want to look at that as being useful, but it informs us every step of the way.
It does. Every step. Because it's like, are we almost at time?
Minute and a half.
Yeah, it's like this desire to get away from it instead of sinking into it. And so, like, even if certain insecurities or fears or concerns or worries come up, it's not something you gotta escape even. It's just like, oh, that's there. Oh, that's there. Interesting. All right. And just almost like a curiosity about it. Because you see, again, going back to the book that we're writing, and just within ourselves, also, we are writing a book that we're going to get going more so with now that we're in person, especially. But yeah, that our life, or the book of our life, story of our life, that's being written every moment. It's like, if that in this moment is some insecurity coming up, it's like, oh, interesting part of the book. Wonder what the next part's going to be. Oh shit, I'm writing it right now. That's cool. We'll try something new, check something else out, and see where that takes you, and see what the next chapter's like, because you see that you're the one writing it. You're the one writing it.
Well said.
No right way to do that.
Well, I gotta say, this has been dope.
This has been fun.
This is great. We got a lot more of this shit coming too. Andrew's going to be here for the next week and a bit, and then he's taking off, and then he's coming back, and he's moving to the island. This is our temporary setup for recording the podcast. This will be changing as we figure this shit out, but this has been so much fun. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're going to be on a Patreon call right after this. If you'd like to join us, it's a tier 2 call, goes for an hour and a half. You can join us, patreon.com/Dualistic Unity. There's a free 7-day trial if you'd like to check it out. Aside from that, we will be back on Sunday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time for another episode of Raw. Keep an eye out tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, for an episode of Dualistic Unity Real with Jackie and Amanda. We'll see y'all next time.